Hey everyone, Ben's95, and I'm back with a new video, continuing my series of vinyl finds from the summer so far. And I'm going to be showing you record store finds, or I should say finds from the mall, and that I got earlier last month. And yeah, I had spent $300 worth of records, so I have roughly 11 records that I purchased, half of which are new, from the new area of the records, and then the others being used. So this is going to be a two-part video. This is basically, you know, going to be the first video is going to be the new stuff that I got, or the newer, reissue stuff. And then the second video will be the used stuff. So I'm going to do the best I can not to try ramble on. Just say whatever I need to say about each and every one of them. And yeah, so without further ado, let's begin the video. So the first record I'm going to show you is by Battles. This is Mirrored from 2007. This is their debut album. It's a double album. Here's the gatefold. And for those who do not know who Battles are, they're like alternative indie rock, experimental rock, math rock band. And this is very like loud, abrasive, rhythmically complex time signatures, and it's just really good. It's really good music. I was really happy to have stumbled upon this, because this was one band that I've been wanting to, really get into for quite some time. Songs like Race In, Atlas Diamond, Tonto, Leon Decker, Rainbow, Bad Trails, Prismism, Snare Hanger, TIJ, and Race Out. Just some great music. Next is by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. This is Nonagon Infinity. And, this is a, great album. This is considered to be like their best album in their discography. And they've put out like 15 albums over the course of 8 years. Over the course of like an 8-year time span. They put out like, I think, 5 records, like three years ago, I believe. Yeah, 3 years ago. And yeah, it's ridiculous how many albums they had put out, all in the year 2017. They're just a machine that won't quit, because they'll tune out a record, or they'll pull out a record pretty much every year. But 2017 was, crazy for them. And they're classified as being like psychedelic, garage, progressive, acid rock, experimental. They're classified as also being heavy metal, and they're just they've they've explored a palette of they've explored a wide array of genres, basically, on all their releases. And it's just amazing how this band sounds, and they can turn out some great music. Here's the gatefold. Oh yeah, another genre that they've performed. Actually, I don't think it's very much experimental. That they're not an experimental rock band, but they do experiment with their genres. They do experiment with a wide array of genres. So I guess you can say they are experimental in some capacity. Jazz rock is another genre, because on the album Sketches from Brunswick East, which featured the Mile High Club. Um, I think that's what they were called. Um, that is pretty much jazz rock, and there's even a little bit of jazz rock on here. And the record is beautiful too. It's just really nice uh, splatter green and black vinyl, which looks really nice, and when you put it towards light, it's really in your face, like psychedelic looking. And the only error or the only problem that there is on this record is that there's like a scratch. You can see that there in the light. And I thought that would have affected the play. I tested the record out just to see if it would, affect that area. And it doesn't. There's no problem at all. The whole album plays good, happily. I'm really happy that this record plays well, and it's just a very good album. And I'm definitely looking to try and get some more from this great band. One of the best modern rock bands of this the past 10 years. Next is by Geddy Lee. This is My Favorite Headache. This was a Record Store Day exclusive from 2019. Geddy Lee is celebrating his 67th birthday today. Big happy birthday to him. Here's the gatefold. And this was released at a time when, originally, back in 2000, Rush were in a state of hiatus, because it was due to the tragedies of Neil Peart having lost his wife to cancer and his daughter to a car accident. So basically, during that time, Geddy Lee had decided to record a solo album with the aid of Matt Cameron from Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, Jeremy Taggart of Our Lady Peace, and fellow Canadian musician Ben Mink, who is a collaborator on a Rush album, Signals. He had collaborated on one of the songs from the album Signals. And he's also in a Canadian band called FM. So yeah, he recorded that album. It was released back in 2000, and it's a very good album. Some really good songs like the title track, The Present Tense, Window to the World, Working at Perfect, Runaway Train, The Angels Share, Moving to Bohemia, Home on the Strange, Slipping Still, Grace to Grace, and side 4 is made up of 2 songs, 2 instrumentals, the title track and Home on the Strange. And yeah, the overall sound. It gives off this vibe like it could be a Rush album. It definitely has that Rush flavor, and it really is a very good album. So if you don't have this album, definitely check it out. I'm really happy to have that one in particular because, me, they're my all-time favorite band, Rush, and anything Rush related, I have to have. Next is by Pulp. This is His and Hers from 1994. Some alternative rock, indie rock, Britpop. Here's the gatefold. I just heard that lead singer Jarvis Cocker had just released a new solo album, which has kind of sparked some interest in me. I for some reason I think that I'd like to maybe try to check that album out sometime if I ever come across it. And yeah, so this is a good album. You got songs like Joyriders, Lip Gloss, Acrylic Afternoons, Have You Seen Her Lately? Sorry about that. Babies, She's a Lady, Happy Endings, Do You Remember the First Time, which was the reason why I bought this record for that song in particular. Pink Glove, Someone Like the Moon, David's Last Summer. And what's neat about this album is that the inner sleeves are modeled after single sleeves for the songs Lip Gloss. Some neat artwork. And Do You Remember the First Time? And when I look at the caricature on this particular sleeve, for some reason, I've noticed lately that he kind of reminds me of Cillian Murphy, the actor who's from that show Peaky Blinders. I don't know why. For some reason, he just kind of reminds me of that guy. Yeah, it's really nice artwork. Pulp, they're a band that have been around since like the 1980s, but they really didn't come to prominence as a band until like they didn't really get their success until like around the time Britpop became a genre, because they're one of the most celebrated Britpop acts of that time. So yeah, great find. And finally is an album that really doesn't need any introduction, or maybe a little bit. Freak Out by the Mothers of Invention. Psychedelic, experimental, avant-garde, zany rock music, And years ago I was never someone who could take Zappa seriously for anything he's done, whether it was with the Mothers or even solo. But for some reason, ever since I discovered this in the Rolling Stone's 500 greatest, or Rolling Stone 500 greatest albums of all time, it caught up my interest, ever since I've been, collecting records. And I just really happy to finally have this classic. And here's the gatefold. So yeah, like I said before, this is like experimental rock, psychedelic rock, avant-garde music. And it shows early signs of a band like this are considered, they're not considered progressive, but in some cases, like they are an early precursor to progressive rock. Or maybe that's saying a little too much, but I think that they were an influence on progressive rock, like many other bands, from the psychedelic rock era. Because as you can see, I'll just show you, they are included in this book here called Mountains Come Out of the Sky, Illustrated History of Progressive Rock. And what is prog? The first chapter shows the band right here. And talks a little bit about on the second chapter, or first, whatever. I believe this is the first chapter. The other was the introduction, but this really just explains a little bit about Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. And just at the bottom here, you can see the discography. So yeah, they are very much part of that progressive rock genre. And so this is a great read. So like, if you're lucky enough to find this on any bookshelf in a bookstore or Amazon, whatever, definitely pick it up. So back to the record. It's zany, like I said, especially on, I'm going to show you the labels. on this very funny label called the Barking Pumpkin label. As you can see, it's kind of funny. And on the back, it's Zappa Records. So you got songs like Hungry Freak's Daddy, I Ain't Got No Heart, Who Are the Brain Police, Go Cry on Someone Else's Shoulder, Motherly Love, How Could I Be Such a Fool, Wowie Zowie, You Didn't Try to Call Me, Any Way the Wind Blows, I'm Not Satisfied, You're Probably Wondering Why I'm Here. So that just goes to show how some of those titles are goofy, but yet, the songs really have, a variety of, exploring the genre of, psychedelic rock or experimental rock, or, sometimes they can be a little too, they can go beyond that and kind of dabble into some, doo-wop. So they're not afraid to take liberties with their sound and just be, experimental. So yeah, and this is, again, Barking Pumpkin label, Zappa Records. And I think by the time you reach side 3, that's when things start to kind of get to be a little weird. Songs like Trouble Every Day, Help I'm a Rock, and It Can't Happen Here, that just goes, that's where basically things start to get really, really weird. And that's all I can really say. Yet, it was worth getting, and it's definitely a very good album. But I think the only part of this album that I kind of need to get used to is just that side 3, because side 4 is, I think, side 3 and 4 are basically where it gets very unsettling, But yeah, that's all. And I might as well just read the back too. It's a message from Susie Cream Cheese. It says, "These mothers is crazy. You can tell by their clothes. One guy wears beads, and they all smell bad. We were gonna get them for a dance after the basketball game, but my best pal warned me, you can never tell how many will show up. Sometimes the guy in the fur coat doesn't show up, and sometimes he does show up, only he brings a big bunch of crazy people with him, and they dance all over the place. None of the kids at my school like these mothers, especially since my teacher told us what the words to their songs meant. Sincerely forever, Susie Cream Cheese, Salt Lake City, Utah." And as Frank Zappa says right here, Susie Cream Cheese, what's got into you? So, just very goofy, but yet very good music. And that pretty much does it for my or the second half, or the first half of my mall finds from earlier of last month. And I'll be back with part 2, showing you the used stuff. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you later.